They say having kids changes everything. Sleepless nights, endless mountains of laundry, and somehow you and your partner go from soulmates to co-managers of chaos.
But here's the big question. Are we still playing on the same team? Or just surviving under the same roof?
Every day's a mission, but we stay in the fight. From diapers to doubts to the late night life. Real men talk, we don't keep it inside. Tune in, level up, bring the dad wave on. What? The podcast.
So Marcus, I would like to hear your opinion. Does that have any actual truth in it?
That is actually a very deep question. It has, and at the same time, it hasn't. With the first kid, I wouldn't say there was big arguments in the beginning, but it slowly comes along when you realize your lack of knowledge about the whole partnership, yourself, and parenting. And then you kind of go through a realization period where you need to kind of get these things under control. And slowly you start to work on it, either yourself, your partnership, your parenting skills, if you say. And of course, during that period, there has been rough patches. When the second one came, even more rough patches. And with the third one, I would say, couldn't survive without our nanny.
Yeah, I can imagine. And of course, regarding that, there are so big changes in your everyday life after new kids, and especially the first kid comes along, because now it's not just two of you anymore. Now you're a team of three all of a sudden. And from my point of view, I really didn't think that the actual partnership would change maybe so radically as it could sometimes. And of course, now I'm trying to live along with the whole thing and, see all the changes in good and the bad, and trying to think about all along that how should I react, how should I feel about it, and what should I do from my side in these situations as well. But maybe I would like to know in the beginning that, in these sort of changes, what have been your biggest notices from your standpoint?
I would say I am not informed enough to fully know about how love is divided, but I'm pretty sure that men, they energize and fuel by love, recognition, approval. What they're doing is good enough. If they get that love from a woman, or if they get that love from their kids, it fuels in the same way. I'm not saying it's the same love, but it fuels you in the same way. For a woman, it's different, I believe. And that's why I say I don't have the data on the love to be able to speak like an expert or anything. But from my opinion and data, a woman, she also live and fueled by the man's love, but almost more importantly, his attention, and also that he recognize her in what she's doing and how she looks and how she perform as a partner.
Yeah, and especially their needs.
Absolutely. But when that attention turns to your kid in a radical way, and 50% of the relationship finds out that it can fuel on it as easy as it can fuel on the love from the partner.
Yeah.
It's very easy for the man to forget his partner at the station and go on the train with the kid.
That's very interesting point of view, and I would say that's very relatable for me as well, because now that I think back, especially after my kid came along, he has been my sunshine and my whole world pretty much. Of course, on the side of my wife, and I love her very much. It's not anything, less than that. But it's very different now that you have this kid in your life and you're willing to do everything for them, and you're really focusing mainly on them, that sometimes it's very easy to forget about the partnership that you're having and flowering at the same time.
maintaining my relationship with that woman that I before was partner with alone, without a kid interfering, and we had all the time in the world. She had all the attention and all the needs were met, and these kind of things, without effort, suddenly becomes a big effort that you have to put time and schedule for
Yeah.
to maintain.
Yeah, it needs so much more planning, especially now with a kid, and now that when the team play become a team play with a bigger team, we need to consider more of the players inside of it.
A team is probably better relatable than a company, but still, in a company or at a team, if you don't maintain your employee, or if you don't maintain
The
your
players
or stuff, colleagues or whatever, you will get bad employees.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, that's very true. It's very hard to build up a broken team if something that radical happens, that it breaks down at some point. So of course we need to be very mindful with it and try to put consistent effort to each player, in my example.
Agreed. And why I'm relating to this is also that I started my journey with my partner on terms that was based totally 180 degrees different than what I'm talking about now. And when I found out that I could look at it a little bit like a team, then I found out that I didn't even have the values from the team I was creating or part of building. And that made me search deeper in myself and back to the self-awareness and self-knowledge. You go through a phase where you get to know yourself so much better and deeper.
Yeah, and it's so surprising how much it deepens your self-knowledge as well at the same time. Like you definitely find places that you didn't even think about previously, and now that we are actually able to be more self-aware, I would say we're better communicators at the same time, and we're actually more able to build up a very good team with the values that we want to put in it as well.
Mainly for me, it's also been because I set some perfect scenarios up for myself, imagining when this happens, this is going to be the picture. And it was never fully the picture, and I was getting upset about it over myself, or even short-sighted, angry, whatever. That has been probably the most valuable thing for myself, to be aware about. Hey, you're going without direction, you're going without data, you're going without a solid base of building blocks that they simply just isn't there.
Exactly. And of course, when you're having this expectation and this framework in your head and it doesn't go along with it, or it goes on the completely different direction, you need to be ready to do some sort of compromises every now and then in order to keep the others happy as well, and to find the, what would I say, the golden line between everything.
Absolutely. The ability to see her emotion as it is in that moment and recognize it, analyze it, and then deliver back an answer that has nothing to do with our opinion personally, but will help her to understand what she's going through in a better way.
Yes, and that's very important, because I believe that we're supposed to be the strong wall to keep them up as well and give them support when they actually need it. And if we're actually able to communicate openly and not in a defensive mode, as we talked previously, it's gonna be so much better in the longer run. And of course, in those moments, because it makes the arguments and even the bad situations a little bit better, always.
And also what sprang out of it personally for me was that in many occasions, all the way back to my own mom, I remember that feeling of when I wanted something, she kind of should know it without me telling it, because she was my mom, kind of, you know what I mean. And
Yeah, you expect that.
exactly, and sometimes in relationship it can be a little bit like that too, from both parties.
I think so too.
Like you just kind of go in an everyday circle that is so boring or so everyday like that you just expect each other to know each other without even knowing yourself sometimes, or without have clearly reported what your needs is to
Yes.
each other.
Yes, and I think in those moments, if you are not able to express your needs, it creates those petty arguments, I would like to say, even over the smallest things possible.
To circle it back, I think that it springs out from personally my own expectations of the situation's outcome when I say this. And it can be small things like I know would upset my partner, which I then leave out or changes. It could be times, it could be places, it could be different situations and outcomes. But in 100% of the times, when you come clean and be clear about your needs, your wants, and your feelings about it, then you will figure out that it was only your own imagination that made this a problem, not your partner, because your partner will accept it and will actually help you rise or help you to be the best version in that situation.
Exactly. Or maybe she's even able to help you understand yourself also and where you're actually coming from. Because in those moments, you're actually able to reflect.
Exactly. We've been using some different guide rules, date nights, and these stuff we have been talking about. Travel a little bit, at least once a year.
Yes.
It's really good to implement these small rituals about when and schedule when is the time that is you and me time, and maintain it, even though that it can sometimes in the beginning be like just a movie night and we fall asleep because we are like exhausted from the week. But
Yeah.
just some kind of intimacy, some kind of connection time. Could be 10 minutes sitting alone in the bed, cuddling fingers in between, and just be present with each other.
Absolutely. And that's very important when thinking about reconnecting with your wife, especially in between this very busy everyday life, between all the work and school and everything with the kids.
Daniel, about that intimacy after kids, because there is some probably some expectations and then there is reality.
Yeah.
How was it for you?
For me, I didn't really even think about it before my kid was born, but maybe my expectations were relating to the thing that the partnership is pretty much going to be the same regarding the intimacy, even after getting a kid. But unfortunately, that really was not the case almost at all, because when everything got more busy and now that we're focusing on the kid, on the human being, like I said previously, it's very easy to distract yourself and make yourself go a little bit further from your partner, I would say. So
Again, you fuel up by warmth and love from your kid in such a way that you can easily go to bed not forgetting but neglecting without feeling anything on your conscience, because before you would lack the need of warmth and the need of love from your wife or your partner, but at the moment you're getting it from your kid.
exactly. Exactly. And of course, between this busy life, you might just basically be so tired from your side or from your wife's side that you just don't have the energy to try to be intimate with your partner. And that feels terrible, I gotta say.
I'm going to sound like a angel, but I would say in the end, and that is something I came to through years of exactly what you were talking about. It's the man who has the job to pull himself in the neck, even though he come home half closed eyes, and go and make his woman happy wherever he's happy, to make her happy in the house in that moment. Because if you consume yourself or let yourself, you're right, it's going to be a 100% legit excuse that you're going to use. I'm too tired. She's probably too tired. You're never too tired to make each other happy.
That's a very good point, and of course, I'm trying to revisit that thought as often as I can, and try to be very considerate, especially about my wife, her needs, and really, I want to be able to give love to her and show that I really care, no matter how tired I would be.
I would also say, because it can maybe come off a little cold, that you just take the love from your baby and don't need the love for your wife. You definitely still need the love for your wife. The problem is you just forget it. And that means when you start to maintaining your team, your company, or your relationship, whatever you want to call it, you also realize in that moment that why are we not maintaining this more? Because even if it's make each other happy at home, or if it's go out to eat a dinner and share a bottle of wine or whatever your poison is, a good meal, and in good company, where you get to discuss some of these everyday subjects you maybe don't have time for in the everyday or busy tantrum of having chaos and kids.
Yeah, yeah. And in this sense, I would like to say that the phrase happy wife, happy life really means something very, very honest.
And again, we as men and dads are in a position where we can take tremendous amounts and loads of work and stress, and we have space for a really, really big load there. Sometimes that load is also in these moments where you are tired out of your mind. Just do whatever you want to push to tomorrow today. It's the best advice I can give anyone and myself as a reminder. Do whatever you can today instead of pushing it till tomorrow.
That's very good tip. And of course, on the other side, if things go south and don't go as it should be and get even a little bit messy, I would say it's very important to try to fight fair, I would say, and choose the right time and the right place to talk about even painful things.
Totally agreed. And I would say we are probably at a point, if I take myself as a relatable to this topic, we come to a point where we can maybe be a little bit like growling to each other in very, very short spans of time, but then we take it later, or when they're in bed or something like that. When it's really heavy or we really have a huge disagreement, sometimes I'm sure they can feel the resentment of each other. But we don't take the argument at all in front of them, of course.
Yeah.
But before there has been, and I would say I also, of course, have many moments that, looking back with the data I obtained during the fatherhood, that I'm not super proud of. But if you just focus on improving a little bit every day, you're not on the baddest road days.
Yeah, that's very true. And have you guys made or done any actual rules that if you need to have an argument in front of the kids, how are you actually going to do it? Is it something that you are able to argue, but for example, you would show your kids as well how to make up after it?
Yeah, to be honest, we don't have the time for talking about these subjects. When we see each other at the moment, we see each other at the nighttime or sometimes in the morning in the weekends. But I would say we have been talking about doing some kind of setup and acting to promote these things exactly. How do you make up? How do you do when you come in? I'm making a big number out with the boys to stand up when somebody is arriving, pressure their hand, look them in the eye, and present myself by name. And I try to make them copy that as long as they are comfortable with it. So they always will see their dad as someone that is, respectful and respect others, and giving a firm handshake and a look in the eye when you're presenting yourself and meeting new people as a man.
That's very nice to hear. And of course, when it starts within the household, it's so much easier to implement outside it as well with the other people. And if you have respectful kids, oh, I gotta say that's wonderful.
So if you're just a little bit like inventive and creative, you will be able to let's take an example. We want to teach the kids to help another kid in distress,
Yeah.
right? We are three, me and the boys, living room. I'm saying, okay, guys, let's try this new, insanely fun game. Are you ready for that? And they are absolutely ready. Good. I'm going to show one time, and then then you have to copy it. I'm not sure you can do it, but then you have to copy exactly what I do. But I'm not sure that you can do it. You have to really watch and I drag it usually out there where they say, "Come on, Dad, let's come on, show the game," and then you just stand with one of them, and you like saying, "Okay, you have to say stop it, and I have to stop, but I'm being a bad to you." And then we start there, and when he says stop, I let go.
So it's like a lesson at the same time.
It's a lesson at the same time, and then we change up, and and sometimes we elaborate it even further. Like when somebody talking not nice, and you say stop, and they keep going, and you can interfere. But no matter what we go through afterwards, why do we stop when we stop saying stop? Oh, we stop because of this. We stop because it's not nice anymore, or we stop because we need to be able to know each other's boundaries and stuff.
Yeah, so you really think about the reasoning behind it as well.
So it's not implemented in 24 hours of every day.
Absolutely not.
But we have moments where we have time together, and I always try to think these things in, because every time I spend with them, why should it not be? It's valuable already because I get time with them, but why should it not be valuable to them too, in terms of teaching them values?
Absolutely. That's very nice thing to hear as well. And of course, like when we are talking about the routines, maybe bedtime routines, etc., being disciplined, having these certain values, it's so important for us as parents to really give lessons like you talked, give our opinions about things so our kids and partners can also really think about like how should they react with them as well. But what do you think in those moments when your kids or wife disagree with these things? How do you manage with that?
Try to come with an example. What do you mean?
For example, if you're thinking about that your kids should go to bed, let's say 8 o'clock, they disagree with that, or even your wife disagrees with that. They say that they should go to bed maybe 2 hours later, for example. In those moments, of course, it can be a little bit frustrating because you have your reasoning behind why they should go to bed in this time, but they definitely think something else. In those moments, like, do you stop and ask from them, for example, why do they feel about it, or do you just dive into it and pretty much try to turn their heads 180 degrees?
I would say case by case, because there's many factors that involves in why the situation ended there.
Of course, but that was just an example.
Yes, and I think I understand exactly what you mean. On the other hand, it's very clearly divided what me and my wife is responsible for in our household, and managing overall our household is kind of my job as the father, the man. We have also covered this previously with
Yes.
who is the provider and who is the caretaker and so on. So in the end, if there is a disagreement, I'm the last word. That's just it in my household. But definitely, if the kids won't go to bed, I will try to, in a normal situation, look into what is the issue. It could be, let's see, TV episode.
Yeah.
They wasn't finished with. It could be they won't go to the shower because it's shower time. It could be many different They're all playing and they won't stop playing.
Yeah, or it's lunchtime and they're not hungry, for example, etc.
Exactly. And there's two outcomes I want to talk about. One is that, of course, we always talk about what deal can we make? What deal is there to make here?
Yeah,
That's absolutely the priority way for me.
negotiating.
Negotiation and is there a deal to be made here? We make a deal. And it's
Yeah.
not. I'm not talking about candy and all these things. I'm talking about we actually talking about what is the situation. Good, you will play. You want to play, and then I start to say you have 20 minutes. He say 1 hour. I say you have 10 minutes now, and he say 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And and then we're negotiating for them back, and we ending usually on 5 minutes or something like that. And then I start to count down. I just clearly stayed out the room. There is 2 minutes left.
Yeah.
And now there's 1 minute left. You have to get ready and you have to clean up. You have to do this. Now there's 1 minute and now we are finished. And then if they're still a little bit struggling, we make a game out of cleaning somehow. The other one is when things don't go that way and we end up in a tantrum. And that could be if we are out eating and one of the friends or grandparents have been quick with the phone, or they have been with the grandparents before and suddenly is shut off from the freedom they usually have there and is meeting dad respect and family and other rules, and that can collide. Then I redraw. Then I take one of the boys, whoever is having a tantrum, and then we slowly walk away.
Yeah.
And I said, you know what? Calm down. It's all right. I'm here. It's fine. Sometimes we get upset, and then I try to ask slowly, like, what did you get upset about? Recognize that he got upset about it, and saying, I understand you, buddy. It's super fun to watch the phone, man. If we could watch the phone all the time, then it would be amazing. But what happens if we watch the phone all the time? Then we wouldn't go to play, we wouldn't go to school, we would forget to eating, we would forget to sleeping, and what would that end in? And slowly we converted back, he calmed down, and we are like making again an agreement or deal, coming back to the table, coming back to the situation, how it's gonna play out.
Yeah, that's very nice. And I gotta say, I respect that style a lot. And I'm really aiming to do very similar things in those situations when the tantrum happens with the kid, because I have seen also the situations when the parents make a scene out of it, especially in the public places, and it's so awkward for everyone around that situation, but of course for them as a family, because I don't think, I would say maybe like big problems, but even the tantrums or the small problems, they don't belong to anyone else outside the family. And I would like to think that it's very important to keep the respect towards the other people outside your family and also the people inside your family when you're able to handle things in this peaceful way, I would say,
Exactly.
and in private way.
Exactly. And I mean, I will definitely have situation with them where I'm not proud of how I handled the situation, either way by yelling or being too upset or making too big of a deal out of it. And I'm not too small to come back if many times I misjudged a situation coming in from the side and said sorry afterwards. And we took a sit down and a talk about it in a nice way where I also sometimes have to apologize to them. Because they are, like I previously said, very truthful in what they say, and they snitch on each other, big time, and that's how it should be, and it shouldn't be in any way rewarded. Like you should snitch on the other, or you should be honest, and then you get a medal, or that's just how it is.
Yeah,
it is transparent, and that's why we don't.
yeah, it's a fair play.
Exactly. And when we break something, we don't get a tantrum. They kick down my my very expensive Q7 curve LED TV. My oldest one, he was taking some kind of brick and throwing it backwards over his head.
Oh no.
And it hit the screen. And I was like, this was the first like expensive thing that was kind of something I quote care about.
Yeah.
And that was the first time I had to calm myself down with a deep breath and thinking like, because I also rationally think like, what this little dude, man, he don't know shit.
Exactly.
And how can it ever be his fault that I didn't cover the TV or put it in a covered, safe place?
Yeah, he was being a kid, you know.
Exactly. And that's also like, it's just so beautiful that you get to relive. You really take a brain check on where are you as a person in this life, in your stage, where are they? And that is brutal honesty. That's why I think also many misunderstanding happens, because kids are brutally honest. If they hear something talk about you, they will say it to you in the same way. There's so many truths you can find out through your kids. It's like we talked about earlier, looking directly in the mirror.
Absolutely.
But sometimes you can also like disagree on routines and disciplines or values as partners. And in these situations, do you guys have like any rehearsed or pre-talk about these areas?
I gotta say that we have, but maybe not enough. And this is definitely one of the areas I would be more than happy to teach myself, teach ourselves some new things and new practical tips. But we have talked about that if we need to argue in front of the kids in the situation, we try to do it as nicely as possible. And of course, most importantly, we always aim to show the kid how to make up after the argument. Doesn't matter how small or big it was, but how we still are respectful towards each other after it. That life really goes on, that nothing stops in those small or big arguments.
Absolutely. And that's very relatable.
Yeah, and I think that's a very practical tip to think about, especially for all the listeners, that if you're having these sort of moments, that this might be something that you could try to implement as well.
Absolutely. And I think consistency here is the key, that you want to implement something that is nice. That could be a morning routine where you wake up, you go to their bed or they come to your bed. If you're sleeping with your partner, you make a big deal out of caressing and cuddling each other, hugging, kissing both each other and the kids. They feel so much warm and love and comfortable about it. And in the evening time, it could be like you did something together as a family. We tried with the boys. I'm usually in the weekends doing yoga for kids, and it's like 10-minute sessions where there is this yoga teacher and 2 or 3 kids, and they do either like a morning or evening session of a yoga program that is genius, because there's a song playing in the background saying what they have to do, and it's just educational apps is just so worth it, or educational content is so worth it.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And of course, when these arguments also happen, to get back to the previous conversation, I think it's very good to keep the mindset that it should always be us versus the problem and not me versus you in any cases. Because if we really want to make sure that our home is a nice, respectful, and happy place to be in, this is definitely some of the core things we should value as a family as well.
Is it me vs you? It will always be a battle and an uphill fight.
Yeah, clashing the swords.
Totally. Your partner, if it's a woman, is taking care of your dearest treasure in the most natural, loving way a mother can do within normal boundaries. The father and the man in the relationship is taking care of the money situation, the providing situation, and all this.
Yeah, and making sure that the wife and the kids is fed, being well, and everything.
Exactly. And if that's not enough to say it's a us problem instead of a me versus you problem, then I would say you are probably in a place where you need to work on some other areas or some other stuff, because it should be us as a team, company, family, partnership. It should never be me and you against each other.
Exactly. And this has been very interesting topic to touch base with, especially when it's so relevant for us as fathers and as husbands. And at this point, I really want to thank all the listeners going along with us and our stories as well. And once again, if any of you guys have any stories or comments relating to our opinions or stories,
this is definitely a episode that subject-wise bring us to be able to take it up in a later episode. If you also want to listen to more about the subject we talked about today, then please let us know in the comment or on our social media profile. If you like and subscribe, it will mean the world to us. We are doing this for real dads, be able to talk about real dads, fatherhood in general. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for sharing.
thank you guys and have a good night.
Dad, and then what? Yeah, we got your back. Every day's a mission, but we stay in the fight. From diapers to doubts to the late night life. Real men talk, we don't keep it inside. Tune in, level up, bring the dad wave on. What? The podcast.